Hello, everyone. As soon as the doctor brought the medicine to his house and left, the policeman took the medicine and lay down on the bed to rest. But just a few minutes later, his body began to tremble violently, his face turned pale, his heart was pounding, and cold sweat poured down like a stream. He tried to get up, but his limbs had no strength left. Alone in the silent room, would he survive? Or was this the beginning of a cruel plot? Early in the morning, before the sun had even risen, the dewdrops on the melon leaves sparkled like crystals. In the mist, Hang held a small machete, carefully cutting each ripe melon. After months of being immersed in the fog of memories, he now remembered everything, missed his wife, missed his hometown, missed every peaceful moment that had been forgotten. And this morning, for the first time since his amnesia, Hang and his wife went to pick melons like when they were newlyweds. After picking a lot, they took it to the village market. The melons piled high. The big, round melons, with shiny skins, seemed to reflect the smiles of the couple. Hang shouted out to greet the customers, her voice a bit clumsy but full of excitement. The neighbors passing by couldn't help but be surprised. "Oh, is that you, Hang? Oh my God. You remember?" He replied, "I only remember a little bit." In just one morning, Hang and her husband quickly sold out all the melons. Everyone's faces were radiant, and laughter echoed throughout the market. After cleaning up, they returned home in simple joy, full of hope for a new start after the incident. On the way home, when the couple was resting, suddenly a man passed by. His eyes stopped at nhat. She was startled. Hang was shocked to realize it was the doctor who had treated nhat in the past. The doctor stopped, smiled, and greeted Hang and her husband. But when he saw that Hang did not recognize him, his eyes paused for a moment. Nhat quickly wrote on a piece of paper, "Your husband once lost his memory. Now he only remembers part of it." Hearing that, he pondered and then said, "I have medicine to help restore memory. Do you want to try it?" After a few words of advice, Nhat nodded in agreement. The doctor nodded, his voice lowered. "Then I will go home to get the medicine. I will bring it to your house later for you to use. Remember, this medicine, not everyone can take it." Having said that, the doctor sped off on his motorbike, leaving a cloud of dust behind. While his parents were busy at the market, Long stayed home alone, but was not lazy. The boy washed each shirt by himself, then picked up a broom and swept every corner of the house. Sweat drenched his forehead, his small hands were covered in soapy mud, but Long's eyes were still bright with determination. As soon as they got home, Hang and her husband immediately cut open the watermelon they had saved early. Each juicy, sweet piece seemed to dispel the fatigue after the market. But before they could rest for long, Hang stood up, picked up her tools, and started fixing the door that had been loose on its hinges for a long time. The sound of nails being hammered in echoed in the hot summer afternoon. Nhat helped and looked at her husband, his eyes both worried and moved. The man who had lost himself had now truly returned, with both his hands and his heart. Just as Hang tightened the last hinge, he was sitting down to rest. Outside the gate, a motorbike roared. It was the doctor, the one who promised to bring the medicine. Next to him was a woman named Sinnman, her face cold. The doctor walked in, smiling, and said, "Here is the medicine. Remember, you must take it exactly as prescribed. Don't skip doses. If you do it right, your memory will recover completely within a few weeks." Hang and her husband thanked each other profusely, without any doubt. Nhat was happy to see that her husband was about to fully recover. Hang, the one sitting there, holding the package of medicine in her hand, thought she was getting closer to the light. But he did not know. Behind those pills was another door, a door leading to a secret that had never been revealed. Once opened, not only his memory, but also his life might be threatened. After finishing the work, the doctor and Sinnman said goodbye quickly and left. As soon as they left, Nhat quickly said, "Take your medicine and rest. I'm going to pick melons to sell for Mom." Sinnhat called her mother as she walked to tell her to get ready to go to the field. In no time, the mother and daughter were in the middle of a lush green melon field. The sun was already high, and drops of sweat began to roll down Nat's forehead. She bent down to pick each melon, her eyes scanning around to choose the ones that were just ripe, not too young or too old. After nearly an hour of working without a break, the basket was full of melons. Nhat exhaled, quickly wiped his sweat, and carried his mother to the market. No one knew that while Nhat was busy taking care of her family, at home, her husband Hang, after taking the medicine, began to feel strange changes in his body. Something was gradually seeping into his blood, and the secret behind the medicine the doctor brought might be starting to take effect. Long was startled when he saw his father lying still on the bed, his face pale, not moving. "Dad," the boy shook and called, but Hang only breathed weakly, her eyes closed. Long's heart was pounding. Not knowing what to do, he immediately ran to the kitchen, gathered straw, lit a fire, and scooped rice to cook porridge. The fire was flickering, the heat was blowing on his face, but Long still did not stop. Sweat was dripping from his forehead. His eyes could not leave the pot of porridge that was boiling. Every few minutes, he ran up to look at his father. "Dad, don't sleep anymore." Then he hurriedly went back to the kitchen, afraid that the porridge would burn, afraid that his father would not wake up. Finally, the pot of porridge boiled. The light aroma spread throughout the kitchen. Long quickly scooped it into a bowl, blew on it, and quickly ran to bed. "Dad, wake up and eat some porridge." His voice trembled, trying to lift his father's head up. Each spoonful of porridge was carefully fed into Hang's mouth. Hang quietly swallowed a few spoonfuls, then sighed, her eyes closed, her body limp as if she had no strength left. "Dad, don't sleep anymore." Long shook her in despair. Tears began to flow down her cheeks. He clearly saw that his father was becoming less and less alert. His breathing was getting weaker. Long knelt by the bed, his voice trembling. "Dad, can you hear me? Dad, wake up." But Hang still lay still, not a word in response, not a single movement. Fear gripped the boy. "Dad, don't leave me." Long choked out a few more words, but the room only echoed with a terrifying silence. Without another second of hesitation, Long jumped up and rushed out of the house like an arrow. He ran across the fields and familiar paths, his little feet stepping on every tuft of grass, ignoring the rocks and pebbles that stabbed his feet. His heart had only one thought: must find Mom. Sinnhat had just finished cleaning the jackfruit stall from the market and was helping his mother sweep the house when Long rushed over from afar, his face pale and out of breath. "Mom, Mom, come home quickly. Dad is not okay," he shouted, tears welling up in his eyes. Nhat dropped the broom, his heart aching. She hurriedly took out a pen and paper, her hands shaking as she wrote, "What happened to my dad?" Long sobbed. "Ever since he took the doctor's medicine, Dad has been lying still, not saying anything. I kept calling him, but he didn't answer, Mom." Without a second of hesitation, Nhat grabbed his son's hand and rushed down the dusty dirt road, her heart pounding as if it was about to burst. Leaving everything behind Mom, and fatigue in her mind now was only the image of her husband lying motionless and cold. Nat's legs were weak, but she kept running. Long ran and panted, tears wetting her cheeks. As soon as she got home, Sinnhat panicked and rushed straight into the room, calling out loudly, "Hang, Hang." But the only response she got was cold silence. Hang lay there, motionless, her face red, sweat pouring out like a shower. He had a high fever. Nhat trembled and reached out to touch her husband's forehead, then immediately took a towel, hurriedly wiped his body, and covered him with a cool cloth to cool him down. With each urgent, desperate movement, her tears fell on Hang's face. But wiping and wiping, Hang's body temperature still did not decrease. The cool towel had been changed for the third time, sweat pouring out, soaking the blanket and mattress. His face was red like burning coal, his lips were dry and cracked, his weak breathing made Nhat panic. She pressed her hand on her husband's chest, feeling his heartbeat getting slower and more irregular. Fear gripped Nat's heart like an invisible claw. She trembled and called his name continuously, as if she stopped for even a second, he would never wake up again. Looking at Hang lying there, motionless, she clearly saw the man who had once supported the whole family drifting away from her reach. Each spoonful of porridge Long cooked, each drop of sweat the boy wiped for his father, suddenly seemed meaningless. Nhat clenched his hands, biting his lips until they bled. Nhat was extremely worried, quickly wrote a note and gave it to Long. "Stay home and look after Dad. Mom will call the doctor right away." Then, before hearing Long's reply, she turned around and rushed out of the house like a gust of wind. The house was once again plunged into silence. Long sat by the bed, his hand tightly holding his father's, his mouth constantly whispering, "Dad, hang in there." Suddenly, Hang moved slightly, Her eyelashes fluttered slightly. Then her eyes slowly opened, her gaze hazy. Has he truly escaped the jaws of death? Or has he just entered another, even darker event?